Hello folks, as usual I'm going to check whether the volume, audio, video, everything is working fine. Looking to just make sense of the whole day, make sense of all the things that have gone by. It's been an interesting experience, if I can phrase it like that. Before we jump in and start talking about what happened in 2021, slot 1, slot 2, slot 3, all of that, we just want to make sure that our audio and video are working fine. I hope I can see that you can see me. I want to know that you can hear me as well. So please do say if the audio is fine and that you can hear me clearly, and then we'll jump in and attack this. So I'm just looking for some chat, something from the chat where you say, hey, we can hear you. Audio is working fine. The screen seems to be working fine. The audio seems to be working fine. So, we've made sense of the slot 1, slot 2 scenarios over the past few hours. We're going to take stock of the whole thing. Now, take one shot at doing slot 3 analysis and just, but more importantly, take stock of the whole thing. Lovely, clear, lovely, wonderful. I hope things are very fine. So I'm going to spend about 5 minutes maybe doing a slot 3 recap and then jump into taking stock of the whole thing. And I will clearly outline what we know for fact, what we are sure of, and what are just guesses. But take everything we say, which goes into estimate, prediction, conjecture territory with a giant pinch of salt. Nobody can be sure of anything about scores, performances, percentiles, ranks, marks, any of those today. And I'm not saying any of these with any certainty. There is a certain fondness for attaching numbers to saying, hey, this is what it means. Therefore, we are going to hazard a guess. There's going to be little more than a guess when it comes to predicting and percentile territory. I will take questions right at the end, but I'm going to run through a presentation after rushing through what we think what can happen in slot 3. And so first up in slot 3 was not very different. This time I think the consensus has been that slot 1, slot 2, slot 3, they're not wildly apart. Of course, when we get the scores and marks, we will know this for sure. We will know this better. There's a good chance that we'll then find out that the scores are so different that one slot was significantly tougher or easier than the other. That could happen. But standing here, we think it's not dramatically different. Right? What was different is slot 2, slot 3's LRDI was perhaps a smidgen easier. In part due to perhaps one of the puzzles or two of the puzzles being more approachable. In one part due to the fact that they kind of were in a better position to know what to expect. Correspondingly, quant was perhaps a smidgen tougher. So across slot 1, slot 2, slot 3, the consensus seems to be that VRC was nice and juicy, not a freebie, no free questions, no easy ones, but readable passages with one or two passages being on the trickier side, questions with double negatives, questions with catchy ideas, the whole shebang. Not very different from what we saw. Again, LRDI not very different from what we saw last year. But the fact there are only 20 questions to pick from, only 4 sets to pick from, making it trickier than perhaps when there have been 24 questions. Quant was conceptually not difficult, but challenging lengthwise in terms of time consumption. Several questions that needed 2.5 3 minutes worth of solving, which means in 40 minutes, if you do 2.5 minutes worth of solving, you can only attempt 16 questions. And if a couple of them attempts go up and down, then you are down to 14. If one or two go wrong, then you're down to a middling score, but that could be a really good score because that's what it is, because it's a time consuming paper. And so that would be broadly the consensus. Slot 3, LRDI is smidgen easier. VRC, couple of vague passages, but not wildly different from slots 1 and 2. Quant, notch tougher than the other two. Lovely. So I'm going to go on to. Lovely. I'm going to have a run through the presentation. Just the key facts. First of all, I'm not going to spend much time on simple facts. 24, 20, 22. Usual mix of theta and MCQ. Nothing, no surprises here. LRDA 4 puzzles, 4, 6, 6, 4 questions in some order. Some technical glitches were there here and there, and some organizational glitches. Nothing new. There's nothing there in terms of just the facts. Let's get on with it. What remains same? LRDI continues to be tough. LRDI has been tough for the last 3 years. It's been tough from 2015 onwards. It's amped up another level the last 2-3 years. It's particularly tricky in the 40-minute context. And because if you make one mistake, there isn't much room to recover and bounce back. You can't find your favorite puzzle in the mix that quickly. The pressure ratchets up and it rapidly goes into into triggering off a panic mode. So that's a super tough section. It has been super tough for a while. It amped up a couple of years ago, and the 40-minute thing has made it even tougher. Right? Arithmetic dominates quant, utterly dominates quant. It has been the case in all three slots. At least 50% of the questions can be categorized in what we call as arithmetic, which is percentages, profit and loss ratios, and mixture, speed, time, ratios, pipes and systems, simple interest, compound interest, the little bit of exponents along with them. If you add in progressions and sequences into that bunch, then it becomes even bigger. If you add stuff like quadratic equation and set simple quadratic equation, as I'll call it a simple topic, even though it's algebra, then 13, 14 questions out of 22 came from this chunk. Even if you keep quadratic equations out of it, it was 12, 13 questions. And so, utterly dominant section. So, traditionally, we spend a lot of time preparing, conditioning ourselves to number theory and permutation probability and functions and graphs and coordinate geometry and trigonometry. Precisely 0 questions came from this in more than one slot. So this is not an engineer-friendly exam. This is not a heavily mathematical exam. It's not something that JEE candidates will have a compelling advantage over. This is simple topics, but questions not being easy. I'm not saying the questions were easy. I'm not saying the paper was simple. I'm just saying the topic bias was towards core arithmetic and not more complicated topic. What we would categorize. Generally, people say coordinate geometry tough, trigonometry is very tough, functions is very tough, probability is very tough. No questions came from any of these. And so arithmetic utterly dominated quant, and it has been the case for the last several years. You get arithmetic right, then you're good. R3 passages were very readable. Questions continue to carry double negatives. And which of the following would least undermine? All of the following except this would go contrary to the. So you have to the except but contrary to least undermine. So why in my head I want to say twice in my head to know at least what the question is asking for. That has been a feature in the last 3-4 cats that continue to be there. Very few freebies. There have been unwritten cats where about 5 questions, 10 questions in each section, just put in the bag and say, feel good, get that momentum, and then nice. It's just a little bit of pressure release. Every now and then there's a very too easy to be true, too good to be true, put a smile on your face kind of easy question that just pops up. Just mark it, feel very good, and go there. But there was a time in this paper, in LRDA, I was actually looking halfway through that I could get 0. Because I was stuck in a puzzle. I could very easily end up attempting it and get 4 wrong, and attempt one more and get 1 right and 2 right and 1 wrong. That takes me to 0. I was looking at it. Perhaps it still happened, but it is that no freebie thing ratchets up the pressure in the exam dramatically. And that was the case in almost all 3 sections. So there's more. There's nothing stressful. There's no stress release. So throughout an experience where you have to ferret out and get half a mark, 1 mark from here and there. There's nothing that's handed on a platter. Right? What was different? A couple of question types, question styles were different. And RC had what is a narrative thread? From this to this to this to this. That's how the passage is flowing. That was tough. One is how the paragraph 1, para 2, para 3, para 4. But the narrative thread could be different from what happened in para 1, para 2, para 3, para 4. And it was very tough. The choices were dicey to eliminate a couple and then take a punt. So what is a narrative thread? What would you argue with the author? If you were given a chance, what would you argue with the author? Which seems like a deeply personal question, but there's perhaps something sitting in the passage where the author is throwing open something, saying, "Hey, this is my opinion," and staking out its territory without giving sound basis for it. That's probably what you would take him on, because he's just thrown that thing without providing basis. And so just like how I'm going to say, this is what the percentile you can expect. That's something you can argue with me to death. There's no basis for me to say that. There's some basis to say all this, but no basis to say, okay, you get 120, you'll get 99.4%. God knows. But I'm going to say that sooner or later. So that is something. So you see this thing, you're supposed to pick out and say, okay, this is fact. This is a coherent argument. This is just a punt, and that's what I'd argue with. And so, but that kind of question was there. DALR was patently less fun than usual. There's usually 1 puzzle or 2 puzzles where there's some nuance to it, where you grab an idea. This time it was just look, put all possibilities, evaluate something, keep marking, remember 7 constraints. It's from like they have this complaint about chess, and chess has become heavily power driven, heavily driver driven, heavily memory driven, heavily pattern driven, which way they're all shifting to Fisher chess. Something or other. So where they're saying that the patterns, and then you fall into these patterns and remember those patterns, the guys who can run more systems, more software, They remember more patterns and they know where they're going to fall into. It has become like that tough by expanding, but not by adding nuance. I got very bored of LRDA, which bugged me for quant also. Quant becomes a little bit more about speed. There's no beautiful question where you have to grab an idea and factorize differently and make it up differently. I think once again, I was having a conversation with someone and they said, "Sir, you're saying this was tough because it was time consuming and not challenging." I said, "That's right. That's the exact thing that I'm saying." I love a question where there is a challenge and thrill to figuring out the method and then grappling with an elegant solution. There was very little of that. There was no question where you had to grab onto an elegant idea. Several questions where you had to grab onto an idea, compute, solve, and then tussle with this and get to an answer which was 127. And there's no nuance to it. There's no answer which is 5 pi by 2. There's no funda that you have to crack and reimagine. And so there's not much elegance in quant, but it became about speed of computing. If that is what it is, that's what we need to be geared about. I might not be happy with it, but hey, that's what it is. That's what it is. We've got to get geared towards solving, and you need more practice at the solving thing without worrying about the conceptual thing too much. Level of difficulty. We are going from hey, what we understood, what we take away to punting a little bit. Right? This is this going into a stepping into the territory of hey, we really don't know what we're talking about here. It seems like this. This is about hardly a couple of hours after the third slot has completed. So it looks like VRC was broadly the same level of difficulty. I put this VRC in slot 3, maybe half a millimeter higher, because that's what I heard. And a couple of guys came and said VRC in slot 3 was not that difficult. I don't know, maybe all the same level. This, there seems to be something to it. The LRDI in slot 1 was tough, and slot 2 was slightly easier, slot 3 was perhaps even easier. Whereas the quant in slot 1 was, I won't say it easy, I took that, it was not easy. But slot 2 was even tougher, slot 3 was perhaps tougher than that. And so it's all relative. I would not say that slot 1 quant was easy. I got drained. I had so many questions that I made mistakes. I was not at all in good shape after this. So, oops. My quant got butchered because of this LRDI. But perhaps what people are saying is that it was doable. Nothing that was outlandishly difficult, nothing that was conceptually challenging, nothing sitting there. So this seems to have been observed. Again, this is not backed by data. This is very little beyond anecdotal evidence and saying, hey, I know this guy, he's good. And if he's saying quant was tough, then quant must have been tough. I know him. He's not. He's good at LRDI. In slot 1, he's attempted like something like 7 questions and he's troubled. I know another guy for whom quant is a strong suit, but he's walked off by saying I've attempted 11 LRDI questions in slot 3. Therefore, we make draw 2 and 2 together. Not the same guy writing both. Remember that. So this is conjecture, but it looks like without any statistical database, data-driven point that LRDI has become slot 1 and then slot 2 is slightly easier, slot 3 is slightly easier. Also because the slot 2, 3 guys had a sense of, hey, this is what to expect, 4, 6, 6, 4. I'll probably attempt one juicy 6 question set. If that falls in place, one more 4, and I'm flying. So they had this sense about what the paper was about. Slot 1 guys had to digest it on the go. So that's perhaps also played a role. So there's a level of difficulty that's broadly what we are saying. Right? We'll have one look at the questions. Lovely. There's nothing dramatically on the chat window, nothing there. I was just having a look to see if there was some specific question that I could address before we go to the next territory. This has even less basis than that. And we're just guessing the difficulty level, first of all. Percentile, just taking a punt on percentile from slot. This is slot 1, having a stab at it. 99.5 percentile is obviously a very high bar in each section. Remember that if you add these 3, it will be dramatically more than that. Someone who gets 99.5 in each of these sections, that is 54 plus 38 plus 48, so 40, 50, 96 and 140 is probably flirting with 99.9596, probably nearly 100%. 99.5, 99.5, 99.5. These 3 will not add up to that. So 54 marks in BRC, 38 marks in LRDI, 48 in quant. I think that will be the ballpark for 99.5, 99.5, 99.5, 99.5 overall score of 120 there about should take it there. Obviously, that's a very high bar. And 99th percentile, 45, 30, 40 could take 1% there. There's 98, 98 overall or 97, 98. That will probably be the ballpark for 99th percentile. For 90th percentile, 30, 18, 25 will take us probably to under 60 marks, 61, 62 will take us to the 90th percentile. 60 might take to 90th percentile, not even 61, 62, maybe 60 could sneak through. The 80th percentile, the section cutoff part, 27, 28 marks, 9 questions more or less all correct, will get us to 80th percentile. 4 questions set, the DI set done, then you're through. 5 questions and a bit, 6 questions and 2 wrong, can get clear the cutoff and section cutoff for quant. This is what I would put for slot 1. Now going on to slot 2 and slot 3, I'm going to tell you how the pattern was. They've just kept BRC more or less constant. These marks go up a little bit for the same percentage. These marks go down a little bit. LRDI slightly easier, quant slightly tougher. That's what we're looking at. So the overall mark, 99th percentile for 120 is the ballpark I would put it at. 97, 98, 99 for 99th percentile. That's where I put it at. 95th percentile with a score of 72, 71, 73, thereabouts. 90th percentile, 60, 61. 80th percentile, section cutoffs, 9 correct, 5 correct, 5 correct. Thereabouts. Should be in the ballpark. Again, this has we've spoken to a few people, taken in some information, then put it together to provide a ballpark number. I'm not happy with the guesses. I'm not confident at all. I want to put 100 caveats and 25 disclaimers before anyone takes this with any level of seriousness. This is nothing more than a somewhat educated guess. And so we have put it there so that we get a sense of making sense of this. Keeping in mind that this could be dramatically wrong. And so don't take this too seriously. This is something to say, hey, this is how I have digested this. This is what I'm taking in from here. This is my, and then you probably have spoken to a bunch of people. Probably you see this and you feel like, look, this Rajesh guy, he's decent, but he's definitely overestimated 98%. If not 62, I think 57 will get there. Nice. Stick in at 57 there. We'll all know for sure when the scorecard comes out, we'll know how much we have scored and what the market is, what the street is, say another 10 days from now. And 5 weeks, 6 weeks from now, we'll know the number, card, score on a platter. And then that helps us digest this. And so take this and then say, hey, I'm going to start with this and then say, okay, this is how he has overestimated this, this is how he's underestimated this, this is what he usually does. I've been told by several people that I'm somewhat sometimes pessimistic. That is, like I tend to go overboard with some of these in one way or the other. So keep that in mind. But I look, make your judgments based on having this as some kind of starting point. This doesn't have to be correct. This is most likely wrong. This is something that we put together an outline so that you can work from there and say, okay, this is the adjustment I'm going to make vis-a-vis this box, this table sitting here. Now I'm going to shift to questions. Is percentile calculated slot wise? It does not. Slot wise scores are normalized. So if you see, if you're saying that level 1, slot 1 LRDI was tougher than slot 2, which was tougher than slot 3. So a 30 in slot 1 could get translated to a 33, whereas a 35 in slot 3 could get translated down to a 33. So 30 here and 33 here could be the same as a normalized score, and then the percentile is calculated. So there's a normalization process after which percentiles are calculated, putting everything together. So the normalization effectively accounts for changes in level of difficulty. That is how the overall percentile is calculated. Sir, I cracked mocks for 3 months and could not solve any DLR in slot 1 except the graph one. Me too, Pratik, I think. Prajay. And so me too. I had really tough time. I picked the wrong 6 question set. And then there's one milkshake set that drove me nuts. And then the DI set, by the time I came to the DI set, I was struggling for time. So I barely got that right, but I got that right. I was in such a hurry. I don't know whether I got it right or not. And then I said, look, I have done this. I have at least 4 in the bag. Let me go and attack something else again. I had 3 minutes left to do jack with it. So I mismanaged my time, mismanaged my mental state, all of that. DALR was wackily tough. Prajay, what's that 7 unknown stranger friend wala? I hate that shit. Mandit Bhatia, QA was really tough. Traveling back home thinking about it. Yeah. I immediately after the exam, I remember how I missed one by two, and I got the answer was route 15 when the answer was route 13. I was not even outside the exam hall. I had not given my rough sheets. I felt miserable about myself. Such these things happen. No worry. That normalization happens section wise. This is Srinab Jha. Normalization happens across sections. It cannot happen section wise. I normalize a section based on how it relatively is difficult or easier vis-a-vis the other sections. There's no one section for normalization. I cannot normalize slot 1 alone. I normalize slot 1, slot 2, slot 3 based on the relative levels of difficulty. Intishabul Haq saying, I thought I was the only one. I'm only one of what? I don't know. Lovely. I want to say what to do in the next month. It's going to take us, especially those who have been preparing or and emotionally invested in this for 6 months, 7 months, 8 months. It's going to take a while to bounce back and recover. You should make sure that while is about 2 days and not 10 days. You should say, hey, this is tough, but let bygones be bygones. It ab tak khatam ho chuka hai. And then come back. I can tell you that we all feel uh, miserable are not really great about ourselves when the first rounds of discussion happen, and I always feel like, oh, two mark aa jate to acha hota. That 2 things I had, I knew Pythagoras theorem. How come I didn't do that? Just this goes on in our mind, no doubt about it. We're going to think about that one thing that got away, that one question could have reinterpreted, that puzzle we should have dumped. So many if onlys that swirl in our head. It happens. Digest it all, chuck it, throw it out of the window, then pick up the pieces. If you're writing IIFT, then by Tuesday morning or Tuesday afternoon, you should be up back and challenging it. If you're going for XAT, then by Wednesday morning, one more day. XAT is a little further away, then attack it. फर्क नहीं पड़ता है एक एग्जाम और 2 घंटे में क्या होने वाला है, उससे कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता. You have to pick yourself up and do the next thing. That's the most important thing. When can we expect the answer key? Usually it's about 10 days. Somebody in my office said it should be out on December 8th. I don't know whether there's Minecraft basis to it, but December 8th is the date I would keep in track. What the question setters really want to look in candidates while searching high level DILR, I'll never know that. This is Lord Snow. I'll never understand that. I don't understand what is the funda behind creating an LRDI paper that is super challenging and that's also lopsided. Like where you have only 4 questions and 4664 in a reduced time frame. You have 4 sets of puzzles. In our traditional paper, almost all puzzles had 4 questions each, 7 sets or 8 sets or 4 sets for 1 hour. You shrink the time from 1 hour to 40 minutes so that the pressure ratchets up automatically in LRDI. And then you introduce this 6-question dynamic. I simply don't know. This is their way of saying, look, there's randomness in the world, there's randomness in our country, we have a pandemic amidst us, let randomness play a role in your score also. I don't know why they do this. This is a hand you're being dealt. Raw score is a scale score. How much percentage increase, decrease can occur? It's not going to be wildly different, my friend. If it's a section is dramatically tougher, easier, it'll be 10%. Otherwise, it'll be 3%, 4%. Otherwise, you can take effectively you can take your raw score as a given, especially because across the 3 slots, the level of difficulty prima facie as of now seems to average out. The scores won't swing about too much. SG completely ruined cat. What next? Plenty of things to look forward to. You have to watch something that takes your mind off just as exam. Digest the score over the next 2 days. Acknowledge that there's a lot of randomness involved in this. Strap up for XAT or IIFT if you're taking that as well, and then we'll think about what happened next year. Kritik Tanta was in slot 3. The pressure completely got to me. It does. It's a huge test of temperament, this exam. It's unnerving to be in that moment. It's true for everybody. I mean, had a chat with, we did a session with Patrick. He's way more experienced than I am in taking this exam. And he was peeved that for the paper. Not peeved, but if you ask him honestly, could you have done better? He would have said yes. He could have. So it's tough, no doubt about it. Abhishek Roy, after seeing 2 years of 2 hour CAT, do you think the 3 hour format? Oh, definitely. I can't wait for the 3 hour format to come. And obviously, because that means the pandemic is over. So it gives you more time to come back. You make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. In LRDI, there's one 6 question set which you take 12, 15 minutes and then realize that this is not going anywhere. You double down and somehow try to crack it. Because if you leave it, you're dead. Maybe you crack it in 8 minutes, 9 minutes, you at least salvage the paper. That kind of compelling time pressure is not there in LRDI. 4 questions sets, 7 of them 28 marks, or 8 of them 32 marks. You can pick some 4 or 5, 1 hour paper. Oh my god, so much more relaxing than this 6 question 40-minute nonsense. Someone somewhere, these guys got an idea that you have fewer questions, it is easier. It is not. So 20 question LRDI set is the worst idea ever. LRDA didn't go well. How much would be sufficient? I think 5 questions right, you're coasting. Quite likely 4 questions right is sufficient. Score for 95th percentile, best range. You have done this. You can see this number. 70 marks, I think 95th percentile should be there. Want 80th percentile for slot 3. 5 questions right. 5 questions right. It should be section cutoff cleared for quant. Mohammed contributed deep inside. Everyone knows slot 2 LRDA was the toughest. Maybe it was. I don't know. Ideal attempt for quant and slot 3. See, the ideal attempt depends on where you're set at, what your mind is at, what you think you're capable of. Someone who wants to get 99 percentile in quant, you should be saying, hey, I need to attend 14, 15 questions, maybe 1 or 2 go wrong, and I'm still getting there. You're saying, look, 98th percentile is the limit I can go for. Then you're saying 7, 8 questions, all right, good. Janin Sangvi, am I delayed for MBA at the age of 24? Definitely not. The median experience is these days 3 years. At 4 years experience or 5 years experience, you're definitely not an outlier. You can go for it. Don't worry. 24 is young. Percentile for slot 1, slot 2, slot 3, लिख चुके हैं. लिख चुके हैं. Hey, let's have a go. It should be there. Again, I would like to give this a caveat. There's no basis for it. Just putting a broad outline. This could be dramatically different from this number. We're just throwing something there so that we can find comfortable, have a discussion going. Somebody says, hey, this is too high, this is too low. We'll change it. We'll be looking to create a process where we can all make sense of this paper and digest it, not give some final prediction and numbers. This has nothing to do with what happens in real life. How to cope with the uncertainty with CAT, Muhammad Saad. Yeah, we're going to discuss that. What is the takeaway for us for 2022 aspirants and for XAT as well? So, read a bit regularly. Read articles that are tough to read. Sometimes I've seen we get used to one type of article. That's a mistake I've had going. I like my favorite publications. I like sports. So I realized that last few months I've been reading lots of sports articles. I've lost my habit of reading novels, and I've lost my ability to hang in there for reading tough, long articles. I'm finding the easier hits and hiding in them. I need to read tougher articles, which make me read twice over the weird sentence structures. I need to find them and read them. I'm taking that up as a personal goal for myself to read longer articles, grapple with them, struggle with them, make sense of them, make sense of the tougher ideas that are inserted in them. I'm going to try to do that. Take plenty of mocks to build temperamental strength, not just for the practice, not just for the stamina, but for hanging in there and bouncing back in quant after your LRDA is tanked. That's the biggest regret people have. They're going to say, my slot 2 to gaya, but slot 3 मैं खुद छोड़ गया. Sorry, section 2 to gaya, section 3 मैं खुद छोड़ गया. That is the issue. That is the issue we all have, where we say, look, our mind is grappling with the disappointment. Oh, beach mein. We're not going to stick a pin on it and say, chuck it, Abhi, now I'll take revenge on this third section because my section 2 didn't go the way I wanted it to. And that temperamental soundness comes with practice, where DRC is tanked and LRDA is tanked. You still hang in there in the third hour, 3 hour mark to say 2 sections are gone, but I'm going to kill this to tell myself that I can hang in there and fight even when odds are stacked against me, when things are not falling in place. That is important, and I think just why you should take mocks and not section tests and the full package. The most there's a distressing part of the brain that keeps saying, "Arey, ab to chhod do, ye nahi hone wala. Let's leave this. Not worry about this. This exam is gone. This mock is gone. Let's take a new one where we start really well, build really well, and then go nail quant." You should avoid that. Especially if a mock is not going well, you should create a mechanism and use it. This is a great opportunity to fight back and prove to myself that after tanking one section, I can still hang in there for the third one. That's important. Or do not quit job. I see several questions saying, पता नहीं इतना मुश्किल क्यों बनाते हैं? मेरा 1 साल का practice 2 घंटे में चला गया. ऐसा LRDA रख के क्या फायदा है? If this is going to be this difficult, they could have told us. All of this is saying that, hey, this is a interesting exam to prepare for. It's a beautiful exam to prepare for. It's a challenging exam to prepare for. Those are all nice adjectives. Interesting, beautiful, challenging, wonderful, testing, difficult, all good. But what it is not is a guarantee. India is a scarcity economy. बहुत सारे लोग हैं who all aspire for good things. And बहुत सारे लोग उसमें capable भी हैं और पढ़ते भी हैं और intelligent भी हैं. So if you keep all that in mind, then it's a competitive environment that we are growing up in on a day-to-day basis. हर एक चीज में हमारा competition है. That is life. We've gotten used to it. कुछ चीजें accept कर चुके हैं. But यही है. That means if you're aspiring to crack a competitive exam, and there's several people there for nice juicy pot, few seats, and that exam carries with it a bit of randomness. It's test everything in not 22 hours. It's 40-minute sections. So the 2 hours में मेरा life नहीं determine हुआ, 40 minutes में determine हुआ. Like the LRDA section shapes my 1 year of preparation. I put 400 hours. And that 400 hours of whatever I put in can go like that 3 steps back. If in that 40 minutes one diagram might draw like this, but I put that an acquaintance where it's actually a friend. I put it like that, and then I spent 8 minutes, and then I realized that kuch nahi add up ho raha. Then I re-look at the numbers and I said that's an acquaintance, but I put it as friend. Obviously, it won't match up. So you rejig it, but that throws away hours of preparation into the train. अभी किसी को भी हो सकता है, किसी को भी हो सकता है. So we train, we prepare, we make sure that it is. We give ourselves a best chance, but at the best you can give yourself a chance. तो किसी भी तरीके से प्रेशर को इंक्रीज ना करना बहुत जरूरी है. कुछ भी करके you have to de-emphasize the exam and the result and say ये मेरे को एक chance है. I'm getting a chance to give myself a chance. In the end, all things taken into account, a little bit of luck, something going my way, taking 4 exams, if one of them falls on my plate and I get a decent MBA, I'll take it up. But the only certainties in life are death and taxes. ये एग्जाम तो बिल्कुल नहीं है. अभी 2 घंटे का प्रेशर कुकर सिचुएशन बिल्कुल नहीं है. So you have to be aware of that, very clearly cognizant of that. That no matter how much you prepare, there's a little bit of everything falling in place on the day, the dot, a little bit of luck going your way, a little bit of the paper not being random, and managing a decent enough percentile to have a shot at the next round. And this is all just for the CAT percentile. Your class 10, class 12 under graduation marks and work experience still remain. And then there's an interview hurdle to still cross. तो बहुत सारे इसमें एक एलिमेंट है जिसमें रैंडमनेस बहुत है. जो भी हो, some people can afford to not have a job. बहुत पैसा है मेरे पास, मेरे को धंधा नौकरी करने की जरूरत नहीं है. If you're amongst that lucky sliver in India, बहुत अच्छी बात है. तो you enjoy that. Among all the conditions, is good. Life is unfair to you in a good way. अच्छा है. Then you have the option कि यार मैं ऐसे ही नौकरी ढूंढूंगा, मेरे पास मेरा business है, I can go back to the business after a year. I get one year of recharging myself. उसमें से कुछ भी option है तो take it. That's a no-brainer. But नौकरी छोड़ के करियर को होल्ड में रख के कुछ भी करके आई एम बैंगलोर जाऊंगा, आई एम कलकत्ता जाऊंगा, too stressful to take up that journey with this chunk of 2 hour exam का stress hanging over your head. तो वो मत करना. नौकरी प्रेशियस चीज होती है, नौकरी को कभी ना छोड़ो. नहीं है तो लुक फॉर इट. होप इट इज अ 3 hour exam. आई एम होपिंग इट्स अ 3 hour exam. ये 2 घंटे से मैं तंग आ चुका हूँ. This 40-minute section for LRDA is driving me nuts. 1 hour and I'm more relaxed. I feel like, look, I can play this आराम से. In this 40 minute I'm making mistakes. ये बहुत ही cramped time schedule है हर एक चीज के लिए. I can't deal with that. Fine. पर with a smile. वैसे भी randomness है, वैसे भी difficult है, वैसे भी LRDA section में कुछ भी हो सकता है. वैसे भी there can be a bunch of questions that are my weakest points that come there. वैसे भी I can on the day something can go wrong. If any of these things are there randomly, then might as well enjoy the process and learn that. Create a story or a narrative for yourself. जिसमें वो 8 महीने का preparation is useful in and of itself. I sign up for this in Jan, Feb, March. I go through this right till Jan, November. I become a better reader and more numerate. My brain works much better now than it used to. I'm articulate. I know so many things about current affairs. मैं कुछ भी चीज के बारे में बात कर सकता हूँ. There was a passage on marshmallow test and cuttlefish. If you had been on any reading list of any of our CAT providers, you would have read about marshmallow test. So you read that passage with a degree of familiarity. और कहीं भी जाओ तुम, somebody talk about marshmallow test, you're like, yeah, good idea. What a turning point it was. अच्छा, I learned something from that. You are familiar with economics, politics, science, sports, society, culture, philosophy, everything. You're become more articulate. अच्छा बात कर सकते हैं. All of those are the clear and present and clearly evident positives of signing up and committing to this journey. मैं कभी नहीं बोलूँगा कि CAT preparation से stay away from it. CAT preparation is a beautiful journey, but sign up with it without increasing the stress on it. You have to look at it and say, I'm committing for this journey. I'm going to spend 4.5 hours on it, and I'm going to be enriched for the 4.5 hours. I'm going to be a much better guy at the end of that 4.5 hours, and I'm going to enjoy this process and learn so much that in and of itself, there's a victory sitting there. After that, I'll give myself a chance to go. But you have to carry that attitude for which you shouldn't quit your job, and you should prepare for this. That's about it. I don't have anything more. I'm going to have one look at the thing and then sign off on all of this. BCom graduate, you say, should I attempt next year? 21 years, then you Satvik Tiwari, 21 years, definitely the bias is for attempting next year. Very young, probably without experience, go for it. I'm 26, full-time MBA for career change. 26 also not too old, 5 years experience, 6 years experience, 4 or 5 years experience, you're not an outlier. If you want to give it one more go, then definitely do CAT, SNAP, XAT, GMAT. Give yourself options and see where that takes you. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. 3 years of work experience, Pushar Kumar, you can definitely write one more time, not an issue at all. But write multiple exams. Raghavendra Srinivasan, how to handle mood swings until CAT is hacked. Pre-exam is stressful. Post-exam, क्या फर्क पड़ता है? Focus on XAT and IFT from an exam point of view. If you're taking it. But otherwise it doesn't matter. This will happen, but this seems very stressful today that you're going to be thinking about this for too long. You couple of days you go to office, if you're in Chennai, you come back, the rains and floods, you go somewhere else and you're thinking about some other thing, you'll forget about it. It's not going to stress out too much. Priya saying, should I go for CAT again or not? Depends on what you're doing now. If you're in a great job and you're getting paid well and you have 3 years of experience, and you can say, look, I can go places without CAT. You're a fresher, the bias is definitely for going for CAT again. If you're 5-6 years experience, bias is for saying, okay, I need to have other options as well. 2-3 years, you can bindass take it one more time. But don't say I'm going for CAT. Go say I'm going for MBA options. CAT, XAT, IFT, SNAP, GMAT. Kuch bhi, it's a basket of opportunities to learn better. How to shift to GMAT from CAT? Very simple. Double down on verbal, prepare for data sufficiency, take a few mocks, you're good to go. The quant is covered, but quant my data sufficiency is a whole new beast. You have to wrap your head around that differently. So practice for that. Verbal mein, this is a whole new ball game because there's sentence correction and critical reasoning, which is wonderful stuff to learn for, ideas to learn for. So double down into that. But the English is less random. and more rule based, which might be wonderful. Got 91 percentile in 2019. Expect similar percentile with 1.5 years experience in the bank. Should I take another chance at this Aditya Bhatt? See where it takes you, my friend. Get an admit. Go all the way. Finish the interviews. Get an admit. Then evaluate. Mohammed Shah, I got offer from ICICI Bank. I'm a final year BSc grad. I did not prepare that well for CAT. What should I do? Take up the job. Take up the job. Prepare for CAT again. If you have a job, take that job. I'm a big fan of jobs. Did I not mention that? I'm a big fan of having a job. How to strengthen DALR section next year is a long time away. Do a lot of puzzles, be switched on, go through all the previous year CAT papers. If it becomes a 3-hour paper, DALR becomes a much more handleable monster. Becomes something that we can grapple with much easier. Do you think a design background helps with the diversity factor? Definitely. This is Poisha Agarwal. Definitely. Design will count as diversity, no doubt about it. Sabri RS, I would like to talk personally. Yeah, we can talk. Just ping one of us. We think we're shut down tomorrow because of the rains. Our office is flooded. But we are there back on Tuesday. We can have a chat on Tuesday. Kushagra Tandon attempted 60 questions. That's a stunningly good number. That's a wonderfully high number. I hope your accuracy is high. Your accuracy is high, then you're going places, my friend. Priya saying, I'm a fresher this year, completed my graduation. Then you have plenty of time. Don't worry about it. CAT goes well, go through the whole process, interview, written assessment, test, admissions till the end. You can take a decision in April. There's no need to take a decision today. But fresher than the bias is saying, look, I'll go to a better place, worry about it next year. No need to rush into anything today. If not MBA, any other decent 1-year course, different from your field, master's certification. If you're looking at finance, CFA, you're all good. Will having a BBA and the honors help? I have 10, 10, 8 in 10th, 12th and graduation. That's good. 10, 10, 8 is good. BBA, LLB will help, but not too much. The first phase numbers are they just boxes. The 10th, 12th and undergraduation are filled in. The post graduation is just an addendum to that, or another degree is just an addendum to that. In the interview, it might help, but it doesn't really help in unlocking it. SG want to go for CAT 2022 but not getting a job, graduated this year. Knock on doors, my friend, knock on doors. Make sure that you have a pitch to give people. Make sure you do research on the companies that you're applying for. Make sure you know the right people. Make sure you check them out on the internet. Make sure you tell them, hey, I saw this, I'm captivated by this, I think I'm interested. Be honest, do the research, and then say, I really want to grow. Tell them, look, I'm a fresher, I'll throw everything into this. You don't need to pay me top dollar. I want this job. Make a case for yourself. It's not that difficult to get a job if you're keen, smart, and willing to work. Did I attempt CAT? Yes, I did. I attempted CAT 2021 slot 1. Distressing. This is an answer to Shubham Jain. 99 percentile for slot 3. 99 percentile, 99.5 percentile for slot 3. For all the 3 slots, I think 99.5 will be in thereabouts 120 marks. We attempted 50 questions and you're getting even 6, 7 correct, 6, 7 wrong, you'll be upwards of 120. That should be there. This is Mohit Kumar. Abhinav Srivastava, 66 to 70 marks will read how much potential, how much 67 to 70 should be in the 94, 95 percentile range, good percentile. This is Abhinav Srivastava. How many attempts did you have, sir? I'm not going to reveal that now. I'm nice and happy with my VRC, not too peeved with LRDI, utterly peeved with font. LRDI didn't fall in place. I made a mistake. It got stuck. I might not get a great score, but it was a mistake that could have happened. Quant, I messed up because I was still thinking about LRDI. Is it advisable to apply for FMS if you're applying? We don't know the scores. We don't know where it can land up. Don't let an admit or a potential chance of an admit fall away because you didn't apply. If you have a slight chance, apply. Yeah, बहुत ज़्यादा फर्क नहीं पड़ता. Intouchable hack, I haven't quit job. Good have experience. It always helps. Intouchable hack, yeah, sometimes it happens that you've done your hard work, you've done preparation, you've done mocks, you've done previous year questions, you've gone through websites, you've listened to YouTube inputs. Nothing you've done is wrong. In the end, it doesn't fall in place. ऐसा होता है. ठीक है. और opportunities मिलेंगे. One of those you'll be better. The luck of the draw will fall your way. Don't worry about it. Is working in post office anything? Working in post office considered work experience? CVA, BAL, full time paid in a role with a job title and pay slips is experience. No doubt about it. How do I prepare well for CAT 2022? There's a wonderful video on our website for how to prepare for CAT 2022. How should you put up a schedule? How should you plan? What is the syllabus? What are the basics? How do you learn from fundamentals? What to read? When to read? How to read? The whole framework is there. Just put how to prepare to IM, you'll find that. Satyam Saurabh, I messed up my paper, completely hopeless. Abhi aisa hi lagega. Right now, you throw some disappointment. Give it time. 48 hours, and you'll feel like, look, I'm ready for the next step. I'll throw myself into the next thing. Plan for that. Shubham Kandelwal, this paper is tough for us. This paper is definitely tough. I would argue it is slightly tougher than Quant was slightly tougher, VRC was slightly easier. LRDA was the same level of difficulty as last year. Mihir Bide, quit my job in 2021. I guess I can hardly score 60 to 65. Which exam should I focus on next? If you're writing IFT, IFT. If you're not, but you're writing XAT, XAT. And then if you're going to do the next year around, get a job. Get a job. 6 months without a job, all right. 18 months without a job becomes tricky. So get a job. Do you think any one of the exams will fall in place given 8 months? Yeah, definitely. Commit to the journey, prepare with a sense of learning, enjoying the idea of learning, then give yourself a chance. Which we guarantee kabhi nahi hai. We can all give ourselves a chance. हो सकता है. CAT 2021 versus 2020 comparison. Muhammad Saad, VRC 2021 slightly easier. LRDA is same level of difficulty but tougher because question selection was a nightmare. Quant 2021 tougher definitely because it was more time consuming. More every question took more time to solve. Fewer questions but more time consuming. Cut off for slot 1. Yeah, they are 80th percentile will be at this level. Have a look, should be there. Anyway, this video you scroll up and down, you'll get slot 1, slot 2, slot 3. Wonderful, folks. I think we've covered pretty much all the questions. I'm going to sign off. Best wishes for the next step of the process. Best wishes for IFT and XAT. Lovely talking to you over several sessions we have done today. Hopefully, we'll all be able to kind of digest this, get it out of the way, and move on to the next thing, either the exam or interview preparation or whatever that will be waiting for us. Don't be too bogged down. Always the day after the exam, when you print some heavy emotional investment, बहुत मुश्किल होता है उसे bounce back करना. But 2 दिन, give it 2 days, bounce back of it. This is not a determiner of what you're capable of. It's your job to establish that it's not a determiner of what you're capable of. To let it wash off, ride off, go off, and bounce back. Put your heart into whatever you're going to do next, either the interview preparation part or preparing for CAT next year. Things will but I don't know how you've done, but I can tell you if you're not done well, I can tell you come Wednesday, you'll be feeling better. Come 3 weeks from now, you'll be looking ahead. Come 3 months now, you'll be would have nearly forgotten this. And keeping that in mind is super useful. Best wishes, folks. Hope I'll catch up with you guys again, maybe a week from now, 10 days from now, in the next phase of preparation. Sure. XAT crash course is available. Yeah, you can check out the 2IM website. It's already there.